good to go.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining this. Some of you may have been on the webinar last week, and we had a good response. We started talking internally, and we decided, hey, it might be good to just turn this into a community discussion series. And to be fair to everybody, before we ask anybody else to talk, we thought we should probably be a little bit transparent with how things are going with Solarity. So we invited Bud Ratliff, our CEO, to talk about professional services and training. So we're really excited about being here today. And I'm going to see if I can get this to change over. The remote transformation model that we went through last week takes us all the way from conquering the dysfunctions of just kind of landing in the position we're in over to transforming how we work, moving from the past of where we were to the new normal. And so we're going to ask Bud today, where are you? Where is Solarity on this spectrum? So, Bud, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to flip to the slide that's near and dear to all of our hearts,
Right?
Because we review it so often internally.
Right. So the answer, Bert, is that we are in all of those places right now on that spectrum. So if you don't mind going back for just one moment to that
Sure.
previous slide. Yeah, so we're in the middle of this crisis mode right now, where we're all trying to figure out how we're going to operate in some way. And in some areas, we're a little bit further ahead than maybe some other companies, and in some areas, we're further behind. And so if we take a look at that move from crisis through adapting to our new circumstances and getting to that new normal, we have those levels 0 through 4, where in some cases, like when I woke up this morning, I was trying to talk to Alexa and she was saying, I'm having trouble connecting to the internet. My Wi-Fi router went down. So my kids were mad because they thought I turned it off, but it wasn't me. So I had to use our cable modem and adapt that to get it to allow us to connect. So I went from being able to deliver essential responsibilities in level 2 to trying to conquer dysfunction. And Cole had a great analogy when he talked about getting through these levels. It's like, Cole, you want to share that?
Yeah, I said it reminded me of Candyland. You know, you're going through the board, and first of all, it's got a lot of colors on it. You know, so it kind of reminded me of that. And then I'm thinking, you know, some situations are beyond your control. You know, you get stuck at Gumdrop Pass or Molasses Corner or whatever. I don't even remember the game, but you know, there's only so much you can control, and you know, how do you advance yourself on the game board?
So we get to that place where we think we're good to go and we're going to get past the gumdrop forest or whatever, and then we slide back to having to deal with dysfunction. But we have an amazing team that has really stepped up in so many ways to just work towards making things happen, to adapt in ways that are needed. And what we did pretty quickly when we had to work from home is start a cadence of communicating with each other. So Bert, if you could take us to that next slide. This is the slide that we take a look at just about every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We meet at 8:15 and we get together to just follow these principles which are adapted from a coach from a football team I won't mention, so I don't make anyone upset, but it's pretty simple and straightforward. First, we need to take care of the team. And our team is made up of ourselves, make sure that we're taking care of what we need to be effective, but then taking care of our clients, taking care of each other within the company, and taking care of our partners. We have an amazing writer who works with us on a lot of our materials, and she is joining us for some of our huddles because it's good to be with other people, so that we can get through this in a way that's together as a team as a whole. It's good to be able to communicate with other people who are going through the same thing. Another thing that we do to help take care of the team is to over communicate. Being remote makes it difficult to communicate in a lot of different ways. We've got distractions, we've got technical issues that we have to work through. So we want to try and communicate in ways that are more intentional during these times, and work to really understand where our clients are and what their needs are, so that we can then help to meet those needs more effectively. And it's all about being in this together in a way that's going to help serve our clients and to take care of each other. And we're limited in a lot of ways. We have a lot of constraints that are put on us, and so we can't expect to be performing at the same level that we were before. We have technical issues. We have situations where no longer are we just professionals. We are also teachers. We are also people who are having to take care of parents, caretakers, and our pets. And it's a new way of operating with a lot more constraints. So we do the best we can with what we've got. Second thing that we want to do is to try and stay healthy. Of course, there's the virus that we're having to deal with, but there's also all the stuff that goes along with that. This is a difficult time. Corey shared with us a little clip from Simon Sinek, who talked about the difference between positivity and optimism. And he said that positivity is saying, everything's great, everything's fine, nothing to see here, we're good. It's having that positive outlook. That's fine, but it doesn't acknowledge the difficult challenges that we're up against right now. Optimism, he says, is acknowledging that this is hard right now, but we believe that things are going to get better in the future. A lot of folks are talking about the Stockdale paradox. It's that kind of thinking where you recognize that things are challenging right now. You're going to deal with those, but we also believe that we're going to get through this in a way that's positive in the future. And so what we do is we want to focus on what we need to deliver and what we can control, and not spend a lot of time complaining or focusing on the things that we can't control, because we have limited energy. We're going to get taxed every day. And so we want to focus on those things that we can control and think about solutions, new ways of doing things, and not focusing on the problems. So it's looking, at the top of that wave instead of staying in the valley. So another thing is, this is an emotional time for a lot of folks, and it's okay to share feelings. You don't want to just bury things. Get it out. Talk with people. Find someone who you trust, and then release that, and let other folks know what your needs are, and then let them help. So internally, we want to be that support system for each other, and we want to be a support system for our community as well. So this is a real opportunity for everyone to come together, and the lines between personal and professional are collapsing in a lot of different ways. And so we're seeing the real deal with a lot of folks, which is in some ways kind of refreshing. Another thing is to be early and productive. We want to recognize that things are changing. We want to continue getting up and focusing on what we can. We want to be ready and acknowledge that there are problems that we're going to encounter, and we want to acknowledge those, understand them, and then work to address them. And we also want to identify new needs that exist out there and be on the leading edge of understanding the needs, and then trying to provide solutions that in collaboration with other people are going to help make things better. So we want to focus on action and work to produce positive results a little bit each day, and then focus on the progress and not necessarily the gaps that take place. So at a high level, those are the three guidelines that we focus on. In those team huddles every morning, I just find it refreshing to see other people's faces. We turn on the video, we share more a lot of times about what's personally going on with us than professionally, and it's good to just have that connection. We've got a couple team members on. Any feedback from you guys on those huddles? What's it like for you all?
Yeah, I think it's been really helpful in terms of, providing some kind of structure. I mean, we talked about having our writer on who it's been good kind of giving her some structure. And I agree. I mean, we have them at 8:15 Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's not too much, just a quick check-in. And it, like I said, it gives you that structure and that camaraderie that we lose or have lost. Kind of, it's not the water cooler talk per se, but it's still some degree of social interaction, which is kind of nice to have if you're not leaving your house all day and you're going kind of crazy. So,
yeah, I think that it's jump-started communication for me, right? It tells me that it's okay to communicate with people, that I'm not interrupting something else. I use that as a launch board for a lot of little conversations that need to happen. And so the first, anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour, I'll check in with several people just to make sure that we're all working on the same things in the same direction, and that we've kind of focused on what it is that we need to deliver for the moment.
Yeah.
Actually, this is Nancy. Actually, I think we're more connected than we've ever been in terms of getting everyone on the same shared understanding. So I think that's even better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's made it a lot more intentional. We have meetings, weekly meetings, I would say, when we were in the office, but just to get in that habit, it's just something that's a regular thing, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which is kind of nice.
I look forward to it. So if we could move to the next slide. That's kind of how we're communicating together, but we are business process people and we're project managers, so forgive the eye chart here, but that's just us, right? So we know that when we're transforming to the new normal, there are areas of our business that are working well, but there are other areas that may need a little bit more attention. So what we do internally and what we do for a lot of our clients is take the functional breakdown of the organization that has all the different components that deliver services, and we have processes for how we do those things. I'm just going to talk about one of those processes. We, of course, deliver value to our clients, and if we go over to operations there, you can see we have HR, administration, finance, sales, operations. We have different practices, and one of those practices, 7.3, is our training practice. So here's the scenario. Before the state of emergency was declared, we have a lot of training sessions on our calendar. They were in-person training where people were going to come to our office, have coffee, have donuts that Corey was going to bring, shake hands with each other. And when that happened, we had to work remotely. That was off the table. So rather than cancel those sessions, what we did, and kudos to Corey, kudos to Glenn Thomas, especially our training director, we converted those to online classes instead. So on our strategic plan, we'd had a desire to move to an LMS for a lot of our training. That was going to be really a focus next year, but we moved it forward, and in the course of about a week and a half, converted that first course to an online virtual instructor-led delivery. Glenn delivered it, and one of the items of feedback we got in the first session was, you guys really know what you're doing with the remote training. So that was good to hear, right? And Glenn, is a fellow who firmly believes that the best training is the in-person training. Didn't really want to do the remote training, but he stepped up, he did it, and delivered it really well as a result. So we've had to evolve our training practice to move to that next level. Bert, do you mind going back two slides to the... Yep. So what we did is we had a situation where we had to deliver our essential responsibilities, level 2, for training. But what we're doing is we're now adapting our processes to use a learning management system. And that's a tool that's going to add a lot of value to our training down the road, the new features and functions that are available there. And so we're transforming the way that we operate so that that's now part and parcel of the services that we're going to be providing moving forward. So that's a situation where it was a challenge, it was difficult, but it's going to provide us with better service down the road as a result. So another example of where we had to adapt is HR. We had 2 new folks, fortunately, join us, and the first day was Monday. So Sarah Sechrist, who is our office manager, she's an amazing person. She traditionally does onboarding with folks in person, but had to figure out how we were going to do that onboarding process remotely. So she evolved her process to be able to make that happen. And as a result, I think it'll streamline things down the road, but there are some bumps and bruises that we're running up against in that regard as well. So those are ways that we're having to adapt, and what we're finding is that it is helping us think differently. More than anything else, that it's given us permission to not be as process perfect as we have a tendency to be. one of the things that we know about ourselves. We did a SWOT analysis with our team as part of our getting to the new normal as well, to just share where we were, what were our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. One of the challenges or the weaknesses that we sometimes have is we go slower because we spend so much time on process. That's also one of our strengths. But this has given us a chance to say that 80% is okay. And for those of us who aren't just OCD, but we're CDO because it's alphabetically aligned, is, we are okay with getting to that 20% to move things forward, and then maybe get to 80% okay. So I think that's helped us.
So Bud, are there any routines or rituals that you found, maybe one personally and maybe one as a leader for the company, that you've had to change or grow in, or really kind of say, I'm going to start to do this systematically?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, building those new habits is something that is important because we're operating differently. And one of the things that I've found personally I need to do is have the time where I'm working, because my office right here is in our family room. My wife is working right over there right now, and the kids are coming into the kitchen and getting food and doing their stuff. They do their schoolwork upstairs, but I've had to get into the habit of saying, okay, I'm going to spend time personally at home, and then I'm going to leave the office by taking off my headset and focus on being with the family. And, I've actually found it easier a lot of times for me to be able to transition from work to home here, because it gives me more permission to kind of turn stuff off. And then I also am more accountable because my wife is right there, and she's looking at me right now.
Bud, being an entrepreneur and having a small company, I mean, it never stops. There's always something you can be doing. So then you introduce that, the physical office space. So some people then associate, well, I go into the office, I come home, I kind of shut it off, or I try to, even though, might not be able to sleep, or, it's still tinkering and stuff. But I imagine for you, that line is even more blurred. I know you're saying, you're able to take off the headphones, but you have to make a concerted effort to build those habits, to, go out and take a walk, take a deep breath, step away from the computer for a second. So I can see that being a pretty big challenge just from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
It is. But what I found is that I do save a lot of time by working remotely too. So I'm getting a whole lot more done. We're able to spend time we use Microsoft Teams internally for our communication, and I'm able to really quickly get in touch with everyone, and everyone's pretty much in front of their computer. So we're able to communicate more quickly. And I feel like we're fortunate in that the work that we can do is able to be done remotely. I think professionally, one habit that has been very helpful is having that intentional communication. And I actually have a checklist of our team members, and what I try and do is just have a one-on-one informal session with everyone. I try to do that at least once a week, where we're just talking about what's going on with people in an informal way. And I'm working to try and be more intentional about that, and also focusing on our innovation, like what can we do to adapt our processes to meet the new normal. One thing that's been great about this process is having the opportunity to work with partners like Renee, who's online here, has come up with an amazing idea for helping clients that we're going to be partnering with. And so I'm really excited about sharing that. And it's given us permission to come up with these great ideas, explore them, and see how we can work to continue advancing those things. So.
Good.
So,
does anybody have any questions for Bud? You can unmute yourselves and ask anything you want to.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, man. Just known you for a long time. We've both been entrepreneurs, and you know, I totally resonate with the juggling, you know, trying to be cognizant of your family needs, you know, and help them realize when you're in the office and when you're not, because you sit at the desk and they may assume, well, dad's not mentally or emotionally available. And that's hard to juggle on top of all the other projects that we're juggling already. You know, when you're outside the home and come back in, it's easy to differentiate that, but that's a struggle. So I salute you for adding yet another plate and, you know, thing to spin. Has it been hard for customers to, you know, just feel if you're there or not, or I guess be vulnerable to get on video? I've used Zoom for years, and you know, I've used the video piece of it more during all of this than I ever used before. I'd join it and listen, but I didn't share the video, and sharing the video was vulnerable to people at first, including myself, I guess. And you're letting people into your home, your office, your personal space. Has that been challenging for you guys with everybody you've worked with, or, you know, just getting people to overcome that vulnerability of hearing more of themselves? Because that's personal.
That is, that's a good point. And I think that having that video connection has been really helpful for me. It is kind of, it takes a little getting used to looking at the screen and interacting in a way. And it's also kind of interesting to kind of see yourself looking in a different direction when you're trying to connect with someone. But the question about how do you stay in touch with customers and how do you stay vulnerable, like I said earlier, that barrier between the personal and professional really is breaking down. And I think we're able to see more of each other as people. And so I think that does have, it's a little scary in some ways, but it also is a way of us being able to better understand the needs of our customers. So
yeah,
go ahead, Cole. Yeah.
I was just going to say, Rob, to your point, you know, I've been working as a project management consultant with a client of ours, and for 8 months or so, and we've been remote the whole time, you know, so we've never turned video on. And then, so not much has changed, but then we have had this happen, and now they've encouraged us to turn our videos on. So it's strange, even though the dynamic of the work didn't change at all. Just kind of the social and environmental situation changed how we were working. So, and some people, to your comment about vulnerability, some people still don't turn it on, or, you know, maybe today's not a good day, or, and I think people understand that, but it's certainly, you know, it's nice to see you guys and have that vulnerability. I think that's kind of important, especially when we talk about, you know, establishing trust. I think adding that personal element, you know, as silly as that sounds, you know, even though it's on a screen, I mean, I think that can help, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for me personally, just being able to see someone's got that thing they want to say, but they don't want to speak up, you know, you can just ask that on that cue, you know, hey, you know, is there any concerns that in a dispersed environment, you may not have been able to scan and see that someone's uncomfortable, they need to say something. And that saved us time on a couple things. So,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, and this is Corey. I just wanted to add something, Rob. You know, I've had a few just new client or prospect, you know, Zoom meetings or team meetings where the video function, I think, has sped up the relationship building, because, like you said, Bud, there's not that much separation anymore. I mean, we're sitting in our own homes, and so that has, I think, sped up the relationship building. And so it's interesting to see how this is going to change, because right now everybody's kind of in this crisis mode, but we are adapting to the new normal. And so I think there's going to be a lot more of the personal that we're going to be able to get to with people quicker, and it's not so formal.
Yeah, and Corey, I mean, especially with you being in sales, I mean, that's like, you know, the bread and butter of the business, right? You know, getting in front of people and having meetings, lunches, Starbucks, whatever. And so, you know, you turn the tables a little bit from a IT consultant, a project management consultant, where, you know, sometimes they don't really want to be on the phone at all. I mean, it's just looking at different aspects of the business, and, you know, how having video on, for example, or a tool we use affects those different aspects in different ways. So I think that's pretty interesting.
Good. Well, we're coming down to the end of our time together today, so I'm going to cruise down here through a couple slides. I think we missed what we were going to talk about, but we talked about what we were going to do on that. I want to thank you all for attending this first live community discussion series about how you are adapting to the new normal. And we're going to continue this discussion next week, April 30th at 12 p.m. We're going to run for half an hour, and Rob Turner, who is on the call today, is actually going to be the guest for that time to talk about how that's affecting his business. Now, just to kind of to broadcast a little bit about what Rob has been doing and kind of pique your curiosity. Rob has a lot of great relationships with companies, and one of them allows people to take slower internet connections and upgrade them for a very low price. And he's worked with the vendor to provide extended sessions for that. So if a company is having problems, they can implement the tools Replify, and they can get through a special account. They upgrade their home internet connection with very little problem so that they can conduct business. I'm sure Rob will talk a little bit more about that, but I think you contacted me the first day that everything happened, Rob, and said, hey, we've got this. And then he comes back about a week later and says, hey, don't worry, we've gotten it extended. We can work with the company and now get 90 days or longer if needed to have things, help things happen and help people be productive. So we really have appreciated Rob Turner's leadership in the community, so we asked him to be on one of our early sessions as well. So that's a little commercial for next week, and we'll work with Rob to get everything set up. And hopefully by next week we'll have the Zoom meeting striving to
Facebook Live.
To Facebook Live. So
right.
Thanks again for everybody's attention today. Hope you're all well, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Right.
All
and
right.
We would love to continue the discussion. If you have ideas about where you are, you want to share that information, please feel free to reach out to us. Maybe, Cole, that's something that we can think about, is how do we extend the conversation beyond just this session to allow folks to provide feedback. I got a email from Mark Manuel from the BCTC a little earlier. He said his team has done a great job of pivoting to provide training online as well. And so that's exciting. I'd love to hear more about that too. So thank you all for joining. It's been a real pleasure seeing y'all.
Awesome. Thank you all so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ray.
Take care.